Welcome, everyone. Ah, Happy New Year. It's the evening time now, and it's bedtime. I will do my best not to get excited. But tonight's lecture is from a radio talk that Neville had, and it was from station KECA Los Angeles from July 1951, 1951. Hello, that was a full 20 some odd years before I was even thought about. But let's see what he had to say. He begins with be what you wish, be what you believe. A newspaper related to me that our great scientists, a newspaper man related to me, that our great scientist Robert Millikan once told him that he had set a goal for himself at an early age when he was still poor and unproven in the great work he was to do in the future. He condensed his dream of greatness and security into a simple statement, which statement implied that his dream of greatness and security was already realized. Then he repeated the statement over and over again to himself until the idea of greatness and security filled his mind and crowded all other ideas out of his consciousness. These may not have been the words of Dr. Millikan, but they are those given to me. And I quote, because remember, a newspaper man told him, so this is third party. He's hearing it by way of the grapevine. So this is what he was told that Robert Millikan told himself every day. Now remember, Robert Millikan was poor. He was poor. He didn't have any money, and he was unproven in the world. But this is what he told himself. Now I want you to understand something. Robert Millikan did not say idle words. Robert Millikan believed every word that I'm going to repeat to you that allegedly he said. He didn't say them because they made him feel better. He said them because he believed in what he said. Here's what he said. I have a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. I have a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. As I have said repeatedly, everything depends upon our attitude towards ourselves. That which we will not affirm as true of ourselves cannot develop in our life. Dr. Millikan wrote his dream of greatness and security in the first person present tense. He did not say, I will be great, I will be secure, for that would have implied that he was not great and secure. Instead, he made his future dream a present fact. I have, said he, a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. What did he say? I have, said he, a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. Can you say it again? Yes, I can for those who might be taking notes. I have a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. Remember, Robert Millikan did not say an affirmation robotically. He said, this is who I am. And when he said it, I have a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. When he said it, he believed every word he said. So don't get it twisted. Don't fool yourselves tonight thinking that we can just run around and say it robotically and things are going to change. You have to believe in what you say you are. Hmm? So the future dream must become a present fact in the mind of him who seeks to realize it. We must experience in imagination what we would experience in reality in the event we achieved our goal. For the soul imagining itself into a situation takes on the results of that imaginary act. If it does not imagine itself into a situation, it is ever free of the result. What does it say? If you do not imagine yourself, well, then you can't get the thing. It is the thing that you imagine in your mind's eye and you persist in imagining that you plant the seed of and create in this world. That is what you do. Hmm. It is the purpose of this teaching to lift us to a higher state of consciousness, to stir the highest in us to confidence and self assertion. For that which stirs the highest in us is our teacher and healer. The very first word of correction or cure is always arise. If we are to understand the reason for this constant command of the Bible to arise, we must recognize that the universe understood internally is an infinite series of levels, and man is what he is according to where he is in that series. Oh, we must recognize that the universe understood internally is an infinite series of levels, and man is what he is according to where he is in that series. As we are lifted up in consciousness, our world reshapes itself in harmony with the level to which we are lifted. He who rises from his prayer a better man, his prayer has been granted. To change the present state, we, like Dr. Millikan, must rise to a higher level of consciousness. This rise is accomplished by affirming that we are already that which we want to be, by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. The drama of life is a psychological one, which we bring to pass by our attitude rather than by our acts. Oh, we have to say that again. Can I highlight it? Yes, I can. Highlight. The drama of life is a psychological one, which we bring to pass by our attitude rather than by our acts. What does that mean? It means it is your attitude that will change your external life, not your actions. What? Well, how can you be so sure, Angela? Because it is the actions that follow the attitude. Oh, there is no escape from our present predicament except by a radical psychological transformation. Everything depends upon our attitude towards ourselves. That which we will not affirm as true of ourselves will not develop in our lives. Not because somebody's being mean and withholding your goodness from you. You are the author of your goodness. Well, how do you get to be the writer and the author of your goodness? By experiencing in imagination what you would experience in reality if you were the man or the woman that you wanted to be. That is how we do it. We hear much of the humble man, the meek man. But what is meant by a meek man? He is not poor and groveling, the proverbial doormat, as he is generally conceived to be. Men who make themselves as worms in their own sight have lost the vision of that life, into the likeness of which it is the true purpose of the Spirit to transform this life. What does that mean? If you see yourself as a worm, then a worm you shall be. Oh, Angela, how could you say such a thing? It is you who is holding on to the image of the worm inside, just like the seamstress or the barber holds your haircut in their mind's eye, holds the suit or the dress they're going to make in their mind's eye. They have to recreate it. So you think if you see yourself as a worm or as a grasshopper, as the scripture puts it, you will have to be treated as such. As within, so without. Your power lies in your bosom. So as within, as you hold yourself in esteem, so shall you be seen by the world. But I digress. Let us get back to it. Men who make themselves as worms in their own sight have lost the vision of that life, into the likeness of which it is the true purpose of the Spirit to transform this life. Men should take their measurements not from life as they see it, but from men like Dr. Millikan, who, while poor and unproven, dared to assume I have a lavish, steady, dependable income, consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. Oh, but such men are the meek of the Gospels, the men who inherit the earth. Any concept of self less than the best robs us of the earth. The promise is, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. In the original text, the word translated as meek is the opposite of the word resentful or angry. It has the meaning of becoming tamed, as a wild animal is tamed. After the mind is tamed, it may be likened to a vine, of which it may be said, behold this vine. I found it a wild tree whose wanton strength had swollen into irregular twigs. But I pruned the plant, and it grew temperate in its vain expense of useless leaves, and knotted as you see into these clean, full clusters to repay the hand that wisely wounded it. In other words, it was a wild and crazy bush, but he tamed it, he trimmed it, tamed it. And then that wild and crazy bush was not wild and crazy any longer. No, no, no. It took on the shape of what it was pruned to be. So, what he's saying there is our mind is like a wild and crazy bush, and we have got to tame it. And one does not tame by force, do they? We tame by persuasion. You doubt me? When you tell that puppy to sit, you give it a treat when you're done, don't you? So you tame it by persuasion. Don't think that the puppy and your mind are different. No. You get the reward of having trained your mind. You get the treat. What is the treat? The thing that you wanted to experience. Well, why else would you keep doing it? The dog does not sit and roll over because you're cute. He sits and rolls over because he wants the treat. Same to the horse. But I digress. Listen, I have seen people train their chickens to do exactly that, to jump and perch, and they give them a treat. Oh, so we train our minds by persuasion. Oh, but you know you want to. You want to be calm, don't you? And your mind says, well, what is my reward for being calm? and you tell it. You show it by experiencing in imagination what you would experience in reality. And when you show it what its reward is, ooh, it falls in line without argument. A meek man is a self-disciplined man. Well, who else is going to discipline you? The self. But I digress. He's so disciplined. He sees only the finest. He thinks only the best. He is the one who fulfills the suggestion, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report. If there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. Think on what things? Whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, etc., etc., etc. Think on them. Why? Because we rise to a higher level of consciousness. Not because we have curbed our passion, but because we have cultivated our virtues. In truth, a meek man is a man in complete control of his what? Moods. And his moods are the highest. For he knows he must keep a high mood if he would walk with the highest. It is my belief that all men can, like Dr. Milligan, change the course of their lives. I believe that Dr. Milligan's technique of making his desire a present fact to himself is of great importance to any seeker after the truth. It is also his high purpose to be of mutual benefit. Why mutual benefit? Because I give to you, you give to me. It's a win-win. Not, well, I take and I'm a take, and too bad for you. All you can't keep up sucks to be you. He was always about a win-win for everybody. It is possible. That's what he meant. So, it is also his high purpose to be of mutual benefit. And that is inevitably the goal of us all. It is much easier to imagine the good of all than to be purely selfish in our imagining. By our imagination, by our affirmations, we can change our world. We can change our future. To the man of high purpose, to the disciplined man, this is a natural measure. So let us all become disciplined men. Now he's telling you what he's going to be speaking about the following Sunday and where he's going to be teaching. So he says his subject for next Sunday is changing your future. It is a subject near to the hearts of us all, is what he says. He says, if you come out, you will learn how to be a disciplined man, the meek man who changes his future. And it is always to the benefit of our fellow man, is it not? He says, if you are observant, you will notice the swift echo or response to your every mood in this message, and you will be able to key it to the circumstances of your daily life. You see, when we are certain of the relationship of mood to circumstance in our lives, we become what befalls us. Say it again. When we are certain of the relationship of mood to the circumstance in our lives, we welcome what befalls us. Explain. There is a correlation between your mood and the experiences you have in life. Your mood dictates your experience. So if you become a disciplined man or woman, the mood that you select, well, You will welcome any experience. Why? Because you set the mood. And if you set the mood, you know exactly what to expect in your experience. Do you not? So you welcome it. And you walk with what? Surety of self. What? How? Why? Because as within, so without. What you are in here is what you must experience on the outside. Don't think you can fool somebody, because you can't. Why can't you fool somebody? Because you will always reap what you have sown. That is a tough pill to swallow, but it's got a little bit of sugar on it. We know that all we meet is part of ourselves. In the creation of a new life, we must begin at the beginning with a change of mood. Every high mood of man is the opening of the door to a higher level for himself. Let us mold our lives about a high mood or a community of high moods. Individuals, as well as communities, grow spiritually in proportion as they rise to a higher ideal. If their ideal is lowered, they sink to its depths. If their ideal is exalted, they are elevated to heights unimagined. We must keep the high mood if we would walk with the highest. The heights also were meant for habitation. All forms of the creative imagination imply elements of feeling. Feeling is the ferment without which no creation is possible. Listen, let me slide in here. Feeling is the ferment. Now, if you've ever done anything with fermentation, now I make ginger ale and I make it from a ginger bug. And you have to let it sit on the counter and it will start to effervesce. It will start to ferment, which gives its natural carbonation. Now, sourdough bread is the same thing. You use a whole unbleached flour and you mix it with water, you let it sit on the counter. You add flour, you add water, sit on the counter, and it begins to ferment. And it is the fermentation that brings about the life in the ginger bug as well as the sourdough. So when he tells you that it is feeling is the ferment, feeling is what causes the thing to take shape. But listen to it. Feeling is the ferment without which no creation is possible. So to feel as you feel, but Angela, I don't know what you mean by feeling. If I ask you, what would it feel like to you if you got that particular thing that you wanted? Would, if you didn't stifle it, wouldn't that feel exciting to you? Oh, wouldn't it feel intriguing? Wouldn't it feel, ooh, I did it? Wouldn't it feel, Neville says, it's a thrill that courses through your body. Now let's look at it on the other side of the scale, on the other side of the pendulum. What if I said to you, I'm coming from life experience here, hear me out. What if I said to you, what about that person at work that you know? You know how they are, a little bit cantankerous. Ooh, hello. You get the feeling, don't you, of how much you dislike them. You see the feeling? We always get a feeling. So it is the feeling that causes this, just like the ginger ale begins to bubble and the life comes together in it. The feeling does the exact same thing in your bosom. You begin to feel that thrill and the excitement of, oh, the anticipation of what you say you are. Ooh, Well, that causes it to just bubble up inside of you, that feeling, and then bam, you're it. You're like, oh, snap. When did this happen? So you see, fermentation is not just about ginger bugs and sourdough. Fermentation is the feeling. And you know how, let me put it to you this way then before we continue. You know, when we sit there and we replay that thing in our minds that we're reminiscing, and the feeling begins to churn and churn, you are fermenting. How you know you're fermenting? Because you can feel it bubbling up in your bosom. See? Fermentation does not just mean gingerbug and sourdough. Fermentation means that mood that you got sitting in your chest. Mm. So next time I ask you, what are you fermenting? Ow. You better tell me it is of a high ideal. I better respond in kind. Let us carry on. There's nothing wrong with our desire to transcend our present state. What? There is nothing wrong with our desire to transcend our present state. In other words, stop judging yourself because you want to be rich. Which one of us doesn't want to pay our bills and have security? I'll wait. We all want it, right? We all want a happy relationship. So there is what? Nothing wrong with our desire to transcend our present state. So stop judging yourself. Mm, I digress. There would be no progress in this world were it not for man's dissatisfaction with himself. What? You think we'd have a cell phone if Nikola Tesla didn't wasn't like, there has to be a way to communicate wirelessly. There must be. He was dissatisfied with having to send telegrams. And look at us now, reaping the benefits of his dissatisfaction. But again, I digress. It is natural for us to seek a more beautiful personal life. It is right that we wish for greater understanding, greater health, greater security. It is stated in the 16th chapter of the Gospel of John. Heretofore have ye asked for nothing in my name. Ask, and ye shall receive, that your joy may be full. Mm. A spiritual revival is needed for mankind. But by spiritual revival, I mean a true religious attitude, one in which each individual himself accepts the challenge of embodying a new and higher value of himself, as Dr. Millikan did. A nation can exhibit no greater wisdom in the mass than it generates in its units. I will say that again a little bit slower. A nation can exhibit no greater wisdom in the mass than it generates in its units. For this reason, I have always preached self help, knowing that if we strive passionately after this kind of self help, that is, to embody a new and higher concept of ourselves, well, then all other kinds of help will be at our service. You heard the scripture, God helps those who help themselves. The ideal we serve and hope to achieve is ready for a new incarnation. But unless we offer it human parentage, it is incapable of birth. We must affirm that we are already that which we hope to be and live as though we were, knowing, like Dr. Millikan, that our assumption, though false to the outer world, if persisted in, will harden into fact. The perfect man judges not after appearances, he judges righteously. He sees himself and others as he desires himself, and them to be. He hears what he wants to hear. He sees and hears only the good. He knows the truth. The truth sets him free and leads him to good. The truth shall set all mankind free. This is our spiritual revival. You see, because character is largely the result of the direction and persistence of voluntary attention. Oh, I'm sorry, Angela. Can you say that again? I didn't quite get it. Character is largely the result of the direction and persistence of voluntary attention. So, where you voluntarily put your attention, that's what your character will be. Hmm. Think truly, and thy thoughts shall the world's famine feed. Speak truly, and each word of thine shall be a fruitful seed. Live truly, and thy life shall be a great and noble creed. Now that concludes this first lecture by Neville Goddard. But the parts I have highlighted, I have a lavish, steady, dependable income, consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. Remember, that is not something that I committed that to memory. It is not something that you just commit to memory and say like a parrot. Squawk, caw. No, we don't. Polly want a cracker. It's not what we do. An assumption, though false where? In the outside world. Robert Millikan was broke. He didn't have no money. But he said, I don't have it here in the flesh, but I have it here. And if I have it here, then it must show up in the flesh. So he told it how to show up in the flesh. He told it to show up lavish, steady, dependable, and mutual benefit. That's how he told it to show up. So he wasn't walking around playing affirmations in his head. And affirmation is not idle words. An affirmation is what you believe to be true that you say, I am. Oh, an affirmation is not idle words. I'm not speaking to you. I can see my own reflection right here on this little screen. I'm speaking to me. So that's the thing to remember. If you're going to say, I have a lavish, steady, dependable income, consistent with integrity and mutual benefit, listen to that word, consistent with integrity, which means he had to become the best kind of character. Well, it was integrity. Doing, even though you are not being watched, doing what is best. Oh, hello. So you see, in his affirmation, he built in his higher level of character. But the drama of life is a psychological one, which we bring to pass by our attitudes rather than by what we do. So tonight, before we slide on into the silence for 5 minutes, before we slide into the silence, we must affirm that we are already that which we hope to be and live as though we were. What I tell you this morning, live as though you were. You choose. He says your outside world does not change by your actions. Your outside world changes by a change in mental attitude, mental mood. How you gonna be bitter and expect a sweet life? You can't get sweet and bitter from the same spring. But that's tomorrow's inspiration. Don't fret. We're gonna touch it again. We're gonna touch it. So as we slide into the silence, hear what you want to hear. See and hear only the good. And that means, Angela, even type A at work, see only the good in type A. Ooh, see only the good in type A. Because here's what happens. In order to see the good in type A, I must see the good in myself. As within, so without. So if I'm looking for good, I don't have a choice but to see the good in type A. Huh? You see, we want to run around this world and we want to be rich like Scrooge McDuck and take all our clothes off and jump in our money. We want to be like that. But uh, seek ye first the kingdom of God. Oh, Angela, I don't believe in God. Look in the mirror. You know why you say you don't believe in God? Because you don't believe in yourself. Oh, hello. I'm sorry. Did I step on your bunions? It's all right. I got bunions too. I'm telling you what I know from experience. I get it. I get it. So tonight, as we slide into the silence, character is largely the result of the direction and persistence of voluntary attention. Voluntary attention? Where are you putting your attention? Deliberately. Well, that's what your character develops into. So whatever is good, whatever is true, whatever is honest, a good report, well, think on these things. And that will develop your character. How? Well, as within, so without, yes? So let us slide into the silence for 5 minutes. Step one, what do you want to become? Step two, rehearse in imagination what you would do in reality if you became what you said you wanted to become. How would you behave? Well, rehearse that right here. Rehearse it. Listen, there ain't no sense rehearsing it if you don't believe it. So, how are you supposed to believe it? How are you supposed to believe it if you don't believe it right now? Here's how you're going to help yourself believe it. Look back at your life, and you will see you thought about somebody and they called you. You were thinking about a particular song and it played on the radio, and you said, "Oh my God, what a coincidence." Do you know what coincidence means? The thing on the outside coincided with the thing you've had on the inside. So you see, you don't need to believe, you need to know. You need to know. You've been doing it all along. Isn't that what she said to Dorothy? It's been in you all along. There's no place like home. You've been doing it all. I've been doing it all along. So when you go into the silence for 5 minutes, oh, we gonna get there. When you slide into the silence, what do you want to become? Name it. And remember all of the times that you said, what a coincidence. Only to be reminded that a coincidence was an event it was an external event. I'm going to make this into a short because I have to. A coincidence is the external experience that coincided with your thought. A coincidence is the external experience that coincided with your internal thought. Okay? Now, which one of us has never done it or said, "Oh, what a coincidence"? We have all done it. So all we need to do now is to practice it deliberately. Step one, what do you want to become? Step two, rehearse in imagination what you would experience in reality if you were the man or the woman you wanted to be. And as you begin to rehearse it, oh, you're going to feel a little something. You're going to feel a fermentation begin to bubble up in your bosom, and it makes you feel good. A thrill and excitement of what you say you became. Step three, persistently feel it. Every time you remember, feel it. And in no time at all, darling, you will be saying, alas, what a coincidence. But then you will remind yourself, no, it was not a coincidence. My external experience coincided with what I saw inside myself. Let us go into the silence. And there concludes our 5 minutes of silence. Now, I trust that as you put your head on your pillow tonight, you, hmm, see, consciously, you may not remember all of the words that you heard, but you will remember certain points where you felt. And as you rest in that, rest assured to know that there is a change taking place within you. Let us chime in for a moment or two. Itty Bitty is not asleep yet. He's just waiting on me. So just allow the sound of the chime to simply soothe you for a moment or two. Countdown initiated. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you, my lovely KZ and my sweet Tiffany and dearest Javion for being here on Fanbase. You know I love to see you. On YouTube, we've got Cyber, Ray of Sunshine. Oh, Shea Butter. I said your name earlier. Sure did. Mm-hmm. Uh, and there's always some kind of crazy person in the chat on YouTube. But I see y'all here on YouTube. YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. Ow. And always, beloved love troll right here on Twitter. What a pleasure it is to have you in the space. Mm, I love you all. I will see you on the morrow. Indeed, I shall. Oh, yes. 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Fanbase. Mm. YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter. You know I love you. Rest well. And remember, as within, so without. Much love, my beautiful friends. Much love.